Colonel Douglas Macgregor is saying something we should all take note of. Now, I'm not going to be playing the whole video. I'm here just to make some commentary. For you to watch the whole video, you can go to the channel of Judge Napolitano. Let's take a listen what Douglas Macgregor is saying here.
Yeah. Are IDF troops in Egypt as we speak, Colonel?
In Egypt, in what sense? I haven't
physically located there.
Not that I'm aware. It's not impossible because that's a long border with Egypt. You know, it reaches all the way down to Eilat at the Gulf of Aqaba. And it's not difficult to cross that border. I would think if the Israelis sent anyone in there, they would probably be the equivalent of our special ops. And I know the Israelis are the paranoia flag, and Israel is at full mast because Egypt's effectively mobilized for war. And this is the problem that our president now confronts. He's dealing with Netanyahu, who has enormous power and influence inside the United States, as we know. And he has tried.
As I have mentioned, guys, in my other video, that Israel, they love to steal. They love others' lands. They are already in Syria, in Lebanon, in Palestine, in West Bank. They're trying to get as much as possible. They're trying to grab as many lands as possible. Therefore, it is no surprise to me if they're already in Egypt. And to be honest with you, I think Sisi has information. He has received some intel that Israel is already operating inside of Egypt in Sinai. And that is why probably he is now ready to war with Israel, because according to Douglas Macgregor, this is exactly what Egypt is doing at the moment. They are ready or preparing for war against Israel. As I said, they are not in Sinai desert with 88,000 or more troops for picnic. Egypt has a reason to be in Sinai desert. And that reason is because they are fearing now an attack by the Zionist state of Israel in Sinai.
To fulfill his promises to Miriam Adelson and others that contributed a lot of money to him. But he's put himself now at great risk. And I'm talking about President Trump and us. Because Netanyahu, ultimately, at the end of the day, is going to do what Netanyahu wants. And right now, whatever we think, he thinks that he has an opportunity to reshape the Middle East to Israel's preference. And that means the war with Iran is by no means off the table. In fact, many of those bombs that we saw delivered quite recently are no doubt destined for Iran, and the Iranians know it. They also are quite confident that they have us to support them in whatever they do, certainly with air and naval power. But they're also aware that Egypt and Jordan are now both on the precipice of boiling over into war with Israel.
What is the Egyptian strategic dilemma right now?
Well, Egypt
okay, we'll talk about the Egyptian strategic dilemma in a second, but let me tell you this. A lot of people, they believe that Donald Trump is a man of his own mind. He doesn't listen to anybody, which is true. For the most part, it is true. However, when it comes to listening or obeying or taking commands from the Zionist lobby or Zionist Israel, in this case Netanyahu, he does obey them. He does. Specifically in the case with Iran, he never says, I will never fight with Iran. He never said that, even though he posted on his Truth Social website about a video of Jeffrey Sachs where Jeffrey Sachs called SOB, he called Netanyahu SOB, and he accused him of dragging U.S. into war with Iran. Nevertheless, Donald Trump did not change his position. He did not make it publicly clear that, well, he's not going to go to war with Iran, and any peace deal with Iran, any negotiation with Iran has to be done after Iran will do the impossible or the unthinkable, which is to get rid of their nuclear weapon. And that is not something Iran will do. So Donald Trump, in other words, knows that this condition Iran would not abide by. Therefore, I have the option open to strike Iran on the order of Netanyahu, on the order of the Zionist lobby. And the other thing is also about Gaza. He's not talking about how to rebuild Gaza. Donald Trump is not talking about practical solution. There is nothing pragmatic about what he's proposing. Therefore, when it comes to Gaza, when it comes to Iran, he is taking orders. He is still obeying the Zionist lobby. Maybe other things, he's not really following their commands, their instructions. For example, Ukraine-Russia war, maybe not so much. maybe when it comes to imposing tariffs on China, maybe he's not taking orders from the Zionist lobby. But in these two cases, Donald Trump has really no other choice but to obey the Zionist lobby. This is very unfortunate, and this is exactly what Douglas Macgregor is saying, that Egypt and Jordan, they are ready to war simply because of US's President Donald Trump, his inability to stop this mad dog Israel.
There's a problem on three fronts that most Americans aren't aware of. They have a problem on their western flank with Libya. Libya, as you know, we removed Gaddafi, and it went through a terrible civil war. At the moment, it's roughly divided in the middle. And General Haftar, who was a former CIA asset that used to live in Annandale, Virginia, is leading the forces in the east of Libya. And it is really Mr. Erdogan, the Muslim Brotherhood, and the Turks in the west. The Egyptians are very afraid of this Muslim Brotherhood and its links to ISIS, which is why they regard Erdogan as someone who is not to be trusted. And then to the south, they have a problem in Ethiopia and Sudan. It's a water problem. And the Israelis have been down in Ethiopia working with the government, cultivating support to dam up more of the Nile River, with the full recognition that if they dam up any more of it, not much water is going to reach Egypt. And that's going to put Egyptian agriculture and industry and the economy at very severe risk. So now they're looking at the Palestinian issue. They live next door. They understand what happens if those Palestinians are either killed or driven out of Gaza. And they're not prepared to accept that. So they're sitting right now in that Philadelphia corridor, right along the border. They've made a lot of bellicose sounds. I think an Egyptian general said that he could be in Jerusalem, or not Jerusalem, I think Tel Aviv or something, in 12 hours. I think that's not impossible, but I wouldn't say so publicly. But it's had an effect. And the Egyptians are now lobbying us, I think, to do whatever we can to hold back the Egyptians. Now, there's an Arab League summit in Cairo on the 4th of March. That summit is going to address the alternative plan to what's happened in Gaza. In other words, President Trump's plan is out. It's an impossibility. So they're going to look at something else. What that will be, I don't know. That's being decided, I think, in advance this Friday in Riyadh by a smaller group of Arab states. But the point is that all of the Arab states are now together on this, and all fear the same thing that I'm concerned about, which is that regardless of what President Trump wants, when President Netanyahu decides it's time to do so, he will resume the bombing campaign in Gaza. All of his key figures are saying it's time to complete the job, finish the job. Everybody knows what that means.
Yeah, but I mean, even though Netanyahu's rhetoric coming from also his ministers, Bezalel Smotrich or Ben Gvir, is go back to Gaza, commit this genocide again and continue it. But I don't think logistically, militarily, it is possible for the Zionist state of Israel anymore, simply because they are completely exhausted. Now, on top of all of this, if they are thinking about Egypt, how to capture land in Egypt, or how to manage Egypt and its military in the Sinai desert, that would put extra pressure, extra burden on the Zionist rats, for which they would not think or have the time or the leverage to think about going back to Gaza. We will find out more, but right now Egypt is on edge, no doubt about that. Jordan is on edge for many, many reasons, for multifaceted reason, both internal and external, and therefore they are preparing their army. I'm sure Jordan is doing exactly the same thing as Egypt is doing with its military, preparing it for a possible conflict with whomever it is. Even though we believe, and I personally believe, that Egypt will not fight Israel or Israel will not fight Jordan, because at the end of the day, they are all the same. They are following the same script written by the Zionist lobby decades ago.